grade. So this week we're going to talk about fractions, and I want to go over a little bit about like some of the chapter 10 vocabulary that we're going to be getting into, and then a little bit into chapter 10 section 1. So let's go ahead and get started. So looking at the beginning of chapter 10 on page 444, we have 4 review words that it gives us, but then I'm going to talk a little bit more about some other words that we reviewed in class. So the first, looking at our graphic organizer, the first thing it says is that parts that are the same size are called what? Well, looking at our review words, equal shares, fourths, halves, and thirds, parts that are the same size are called equal shares. Okay, so make sure you fill that in your book. Equal shares. And making equal shares, or a way that I like to think about it, is if I'm hanging out with my friends and I've got 6 friends hanging out and I have 6 cupcakes, well, each of my friends will get a cupcake. So I'm giving out the cupcakes equally. So that's kind of what we're going to be thinking about when we're thinking of fractions. So looking at this first one, I drew a circle and did my best to split it in 2. And when you see anything, whether it's a shape or, maybe later on in your text, you'll see like more real life things like pizza, split in 2 like this, they are halves. They are halves, okay? So you can go ahead and fill that one in. So the next one we're looking at is I've got a box, and I split it into 3 equal shares, or 3 equal sections, and those would be called thirds. Okay? And then the last one that I have drawn up on the board that's also in your book is the purple rectangle that's split up into 1, 2, 3, 4. It's split up into 4, and it is equally split up into 4. So the way that we say that is fourths. Now, this has been talked about in your simple solutions already. I know back when I came in January, I think it was towards the end of January, beginning of February, that we started seeing questions about fractions. So this might be a little bit of a review. Okay, so when looking at fractions, there's a decent amount of vocabulary that we need to know and understand in order to really understand how to even solve fractions or how to look at them. So let's start with what a fraction in itself looks like, typically. Okay, we typically see a number, a horizontal line, and a second number. Now, each number means something different, and the horizontal line has its own meaning. The horizontal line, I'm actually going to do it in purple so you can see it. This is a fraction bar. And a fraction bar is just showing us where we're going to split our fraction, okay? Because we are splitting our fraction. We have one shape or one thing that we had split into parts, okay? So let me explain more in depth what that means. So up here, I've got my 1, and my 1 has its own meaning too. The 1 is called the numerator. The numerator. And the numerator tells how many equal parts are being counted. Okay? So in this fraction, I am counting 1 equal part of the 2 that are there. Let me keep going. Okay? The denominator, which is down below the fraction bar, so that's down here, the denominator is telling us how many equal parts are in the whole. Okay, so let me draw this as an example. Okay, so we have a box or a rectangle, okay? My fraction bar, so I'm going, this is my line, okay? And if you remember from before, it's called a half or halves. Okay, so my numerator is showing me or telling me how many equal parts are being counted. I only want to count this one orange half. Okay, so what part of my shape am I talking about? I'm talking about one half of it. I am talking about this one shaded piece, which is my numerator. The denominator is telling me how many there are altogether, how many parts there are in the whole. The whole is the shape that's being split up into equal shares. That's the whole, okay? But the denominator is telling me how many equal parts there are in the whole. And in this shape, there are 2 equal parts in the whole. Okay, let's do another example. All right, let's do, how about 1/6, okay? So remember, the number 1 is my numerator. That's telling me how many equal parts are being counted. The 6 is my denominator. It is down under my fraction bar, and that is telling me how many equal parts there are in the whole. But in order to completely understand this, we need to draw the whole. So I'm going to draw another rectangle. And I'm going to give it 6 equal shares. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, here, let me make the rectangle on itself a little smaller so it looks more accurate. All right, here we go. So I have a whole. My whole is this rectangle right here with 6 equal shares. I only want to focus on one equal part that I'm going to count. So I'm gonna do this one. The one equal part that I am talking about is my numerator, okay? The numerator. So now what would happen if I change my numerator to a 3? Okay? So now I'm talking about 3 equal parts that are going to be counted out of the 6 whole equal parts that I have. So I will then color in 3 equal parts, okay? Because I don't want you to think that fractions are always just 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, okay? There's more than that. But understanding that north of the fraction bar is your numerator, and that's telling you how many equal parts are being counted. And down below your fraction bar is your denominator, and that's telling you how many equal parts are in the whole. Okay, so moving on to your vocabulary, make sure you cut and paste and make your Chapter 10 vocabulary cards and practice them, because all of this is going to be super important when we move forward to Chapter 10, Section 1.